Well, thank you so much for joining me for the next half hour, 45 minutes. We're going to be entertaining a lot of questions from those of you that join us, along with folks that have gone ahead and emailed me in a bunch of questions. This entire session is going to be dedicated to, asking questions, getting, very open and honest answers to your questions. And the one request that I do have for all of you that are here joining us is that if you do have a question, please, in the chat, write the word question in all caps, and then be very clear on what your question is. It sometimes, makes it a lot easier for me. And I know that some of you will be networking, which I encourage you to do, and introducing yourself to other folks that have joined us. But it'll be a lot easier for me to surf through the chat to find those questions that I want to make sure we have time to address. So, and again, if we do go long, and it's quite likely, I know that if you have to leave early, this session is going to get recorded by LinkedIn. It's going to be available on the exact same registration link that you are joining us on now. So you can always go back and look at the recordings or anything that you may have missed. And please feel free to share that link with anybody you know that's in the job search that you think might benefit from, hearing about some of the questions that we go through. So before I get into the specific questions, I'm going to share just a few things with you real quick. Couple quick reminders. One is that the NSENG membership is absolutely free. It stands for the North Shore Executive Networking Group. Our website is nsenginc.com. With the membership, you're going to get access to 2 webinar recordings and the ability to interact with our 11,700 members. We are getting so close to the 12,000 member mark, quite likely that we'll pass that sometime in January. But it's a great place to interact and network with folks that can make introductions for you that you might not be able to get on your own. So there's also a very active LinkedIn group, and I urge you all to join that as well. So join NSENG on the website. Join our LinkedIn group, and it's a great place to have opportunities to engage other individuals. I also have advertisers that are promoting their positions here, and so I urge you all to take a look at this and get involved with the other folks who are also looking for jobs. But in addition to that, we've got 3,000 members who've landed great jobs and come back to this location to interact with other members. Some of the resources that are available to you. I've got 17 on-demand webinar recordings. Each one of these recordings is about 90 minutes in length on all different aspects of job search. Just come on into the website, take a look at the descriptions behind each of these webinars, and go ahead and purchase whatever you'd like. In addition to that, there are 3 on-demand workshop recordings. These are a real deep dive for 3 hours into 3 specific topics. One is my trademarked what the hell approach to job search. Idea being, what the hell do you have to lose by doing things that other job seekers aren't doing? And one of the very interesting things about this approach that I was able to brand is that I've created 13 somewhat unorthodox approaches to job search. And it's a way in which to create more visibility for your background. The second 3-hour workshop is on maximizing the value of LinkedIn. I talk to you about how to search engine optimize your profile, but then how to really use the platform to find more companies and key people in those firms so you can start messaging to them. And the third one is about building out your own, job search plan so you can make yourself more accountable, but most importantly, make more and better use of your time. The next event that I'll be hosting will be in the new year on Wednesday, January 8th, from 12 to 12:30 Central Time. And I'll be talking on the topic of 8 steps that you need to engage in order to shorten and compress the time it takes to find your next job opportunity. So you can see this. It's posted up on LinkedIn, and you go ahead and register just as you did for this event. If any of you are considering the possibility of working with a coach, it's the biggest piece of what I do. I have job search coaching packages, and I have one-on-one custom coaching services that you're welcome to take a look at. Again, go to the website, nsenginc.com, and you can see the details behind each of these different approaches. One thing that I do suggest you do, if you're interested in being notified whenever I post any of my content out on LinkedIn, go to my profile, click on that bell, and you will be alerted every time I post out on LinkedIn. Typically do it 2 to 3 times a week, and everything I post is job search related. I'm sharing with you my perspectives on job search, and so I urge you to go ahead and take advantage of this. The content is all free, and of course it gets put on the LinkedIn platform, so you can go back and look at it at any point in time. I do want to mention a very important service that can benefit anybody who's in a job search. The U.S. government sets aside a very significant chunk of money every year, and it's referred to as the WIOA grant. It stands for Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. And I partner with a company by the name of Microtrain here in the state of Illinois. So those of you that live in Illinois, Microtrain is the place to go where you can potentially get free training. The reason why it's free is that you apply for the grant, and Microtrain can help you apply for this grant. If you're accepted, and we've had hundreds of people in NSENG get grants, if you're accepted, you then can get that training at absolutely no cost, because Microtrain is going to get paid by our government, which means they can pass along that training to you at no cost. Check out their website at microtrain.net/NSENG. They've set up a special landing page for us. You can go ahead and complete the form and then set up a time to talk with them about the training that would be of interest to you. And there's great programs on PMP certifications, Lean Six Sigma, project management, all kinds of software languages. And so for those of you in Illinois, please reach out to Microtrain. You can contact and email Dennis Muller directly. He's the co-founder of the firm. His email address is dmuller@microtrain.net. And for those of you that don't live in the state of Illinois, you have opportunities as well. There are many WIOA approved training companies in every major city across the country. Just do a Google search for WIOA training companies, and you'll get a list of them in the area where you reside, and you can reach out to them to get some help to help you not only get some skills that you don't have, but it will absolutely make you more marketable to potential employers. I'm going to cover a couple quick things here with you based on some research that I do throughout the year. But one thing that I did want to mention is that I know that there are many of you that would love to have a remote working situation. And there are some websites that specialize in jobs that are going to be remotely located. So these are just some of them, and I'm sure there are many others. Teal, Flex Jobs, We Work Remotely, Remote.co, and others. But I wanted to put these up there so that, for those of you that would like and prefer to be working remotely, these are websites that will be promoting jobs that allow you to work in a remote location. I do a lot of polls on LinkedIn throughout the course of the year, and I just wanted to share a couple of the results with you from some of those that I conducted during the course of 2024. I asked the question, what has been your biggest job search challenge? And these were the results that I got. And what's really disappointing to me, quite honestly, is that almost half of the people felt that their biggest job search challenge was being able to express their unique value proposition. To me, this is the single most important part of what you need to do extremely well in your job search, because companies are buying into candidates because of the value they bring. And this is something that you've got to be able to express very clearly. You can see some of the other things that people felt challenged by, but networking also is another one, because we know that 70% of all the jobs involve some level of networking that gets the individual who's looking for a job to a job offer. So I urge you all to take time, and if you need help in these areas, this is part of the coaching that I do to help people rewrite their value propositions and their LinkedIn profiles, and a lot of other, items that can help you stand out. Here's another question that I asked during the course of the year. The question was, when you're in a job search, do you actively market yourself to companies that do not have advertised positions that are of interest to you? What was disappointing for me with this is that not even half of the people said that they absolutely market themselves to companies that don't have advertised jobs of interest. And some of you might ask the question, well, why would I want to go after companies that don't have advertised jobs? Just because they don't have advertised jobs doesn't mean they don't have jobs. In fact, anywhere from 30 to 40% of all the jobs that are out there in the marketplace today that are available are not advertised on LinkedIn or Indeed or Career Builder or any of these other aggregated websites. They're hidden because many companies are looking to their own employees to make recommendations, to make referrals, and they're going to reward those folks $1,000 to $2,000 typically if somebody they refer gets hired. At the same time, there are so many companies that are in the process of thinking about a job. And the fact is that if you can put together a nice target company list, whether they have jobs or not, you can create opportunities for yourself. I've done it myself in job searches that I was in. And I've worked with many people who have been able to open up doors and get conversations going that were led to ultimately a full-time role. Here's another question I asked. In which work setting do you think you're most productive? What I really was encouraged by this was that more than half of the people felt that it was as a result of working in a hybrid situation, which is great because that's where our market seems to be going. There are a lot of folks, that are working 2 or 3 days in an office and 2 or 3 days at home. And there are still plenty of companies that are allowing all of their employees to work remote. But I think over time, we're going to see more and more of that hybrid model coming into play. What we I think have seen is that those companies that have decided to go entirely in office and require all their employees to go in office, they're losing some really good people. Now, in some cases, they may be using it as a way to get people out of the company without having to pay severance. Interesting approach, but there is some validity to that. Here's another poll that I ran during the course of the year. And the question that I asked was, what has been your primary reason for seeking a new job? And what really surprised me here, and I'm really encouraged by this, is the fact that 31% of the people said that they were looking for a better company culture. In the past, it's almost always dominated by people who are looking for a better salary, looking for more money. But the fact that the majority or the biggest percentage of people said that they were looking for a new job because of company culture, I think is really good news because there's plenty of people today that are underemployed and plenty of people who are employed but not liking what they're doing. And oftentimes it's because of the culture. So there's a lot more emphasis by job seekers on finding the right place to work. One more question that I asked was, think about the most challenging job that you've ever had in your career. Was that job tougher or easier than finding your last new job? And no surprise here is that about 2 out of every 3 people said that finding a new job was far more difficult than the most difficult job that they've ever had. And that is quite honestly the way the market has been for a long time, long before COVID. I think most people will tell you that finding a job is extremely difficult. And the fact is that in 2024, we saw plenty of signs that signaled that it could, in fact, get tougher. And it was tougher in 24 versus 23. And here's just a couple statistics I'll share with you. I'm sure there are some of you that have worked at some of these companies, and the consulting industry and tech companies were hit very, very hard, had some very big layoffs. What's interesting is that the job applications increased at a rate of 4 times the number of job openings, which means there's so many more people that are responding to opportunities than there are opportunities. The average job opening for a white collar position had anywhere from 150 to 270 applicants on average. And I know many of you go into LinkedIn and you see within 24 hours, there's almost 100 people that have applied to a particular position. It's absolutely happening constantly. And the last point is important. Of the job seekers that actually turned down a job offer, almost half of them did so because they felt that the company had a very negative reputation, which I think ties back to the company culture issue that we talked about. So we're going to open it up now to questions. And again, as a quick reminder, if you do have a question, type into the chat. I'll be monitoring it. Put in all caps the word question first, and then ask your question. I just ask that you be really clear and concise, so that I'm able to address the various issues that you raise. So I am going to start with a couple of the emails that were sent in with questions that were asked of me. The first question that I got was, what is a good way to introduce myself to a second-degree LinkedIn connection who works in one of my targeted companies? Well, there's a few ways to do this, okay? One is you always want to, if you can, is to get a mutual connection between somebody who's a first-degree connection to you, who also happens to be a first-degree connection to somebody inside a company, right? That's what a second-degree connection is all about, right? And you want to go to the people that are first-degree connections to you to help see if they know that individual well enough to make a potential introduction. Now, one of the things I always encourage my clients to do is to take a screenshot of the person's, the person or people that you want to get connected into or introduced into by somebody in your network. Take a screenshot of their profile and share that with somebody who you're connected to, so that there's no way that they can mistake who this person is. And just, be quick to ask them, is this somebody that you know well enough to make a potential introduction? And then if you don't even have a connection into a company, all is not lost. There's nothing wrong with sending out cold, LinkedIn connections to people inside that firm and just ask them, you have 5 minutes for a quick conversation. There's a position in the company that I'm very interested in, was just hoping that you might be able to give me, some direction on the organizational structure. Okay. Understanding the organizational structure is really important when you're in a job search, because you want to know who you got to get to. So let's take a look and see if there's some questions that have been sent in here. Okay. Let me go back up here. All right, I'll keep coming back to it. Here's a question. What do you think of the 2025 job outlook? I think we've seen a really rough year. There's no question that what we've just been through in 2024 has been extremely tough. And I've seen it with people at all different levels, whether you're early in your career or you've been working for 20 or more years. But I think that we're going to reach a point during the course of next year where things will max out. But the fact is that companies are very, very cautious. They are taking entirely too long to pull the trigger on candidates that they want to make an offer to. And I think we're going to see a continuation of that, at least for the first quarter. So I don't see a big change early on. There are plenty of companies that are doing extremely well, and our economy is doing very, very well. So we come into this new year actually in much stronger shape as a country than we were looking back 2, 3, 5 years ago. So I think that it's taking companies a while to catch up after having gone through COVID. But I think that we'll see things start to open up in a much more positive way as we get further into 2025. All right, here's another question that was just chatted in. What's the best way to negotiate salary, especially in an industry I don't have a ton of experience in? Okay, so, and then nervous if I come in too high. They expect more results faster, but I don't want to undervalue myself. So this is a great question, and I'm sure there's many of you out there that are faced with this kind of situation. My feeling is that every job is negotiable. There is a range associated with virtually every position. I've seen this in many places where I've worked, and I've seen it in many companies that I've interacted with. So if the position says that it has a salary of $90,000, well, it's quite possible that range could actually be from 75 to 110. So what I suggest you do is that, the first thing you want to do is indicate, if they are asking for your salary requirements, indicate to them that your greatest interest is making sure that you find the kind of role in the right company, and that salary and compensation, in your mind, will take care of itself. But also let them know that there's more to compensation than just salary. Many of you are accustomed to getting incentive plans. There could be stock or stock options. There could be a signing bonus. There could be an increase in vacation time. All these things have monetary value to you. And so don't eliminate yourself unless the job level is so low that you would never consider a position at the perceived grade or salary that they're talking about. Just know that it's important for you to get into the game. You got to keep the door open. And you know what? If they can't meet your salary requirement and they are not willing to be flexible enough, there's no downside. You walk away. But you want to keep the conversation going. You want to let them know that there is an opportunity for us to make this work. And so my feeling is, give them a range if they absolutely insist on something, and make sure that within that range, there's something there, particularly on the high side, that you're willing to live with. Again, you can trade off things when you ultimately are determined to be the chosen candidate. That's when companies are going to be a lot more flexible, because they've decided that you are the right fit with this job. And the last thing they want to do is take another 2 or 3 months looking for more candidates, which is very costly in terms of time and money to the hiring company. And of course, a huge burden to the people that are still there, having to pick up the load for the empty space in their company. So thanks for the question. That's great. Here's another question. As a job seeker, does the green banner open to work against me? I appreciate this question because I have a very strong view on this. And I probably have plenty of people who view it just the opposite that I do. I personally think that the hashtag open to work banner on your LinkedIn profile cannot help you. In fact, I think it can, in many cases, hurt you. And here's why. I think at first glance, it immediately tells everybody out there that you're unemployed. And there are companies that, particularly when they use external recruiters, they tell those external recruiters, you know what, bring me 5 qualified candidates, but make sure that not more than one of them is currently unemployed. There are some built-in prejudices against people that are unemployed. And it's unfortunate, because there are some people who think that if you are unemployed, then you must be an underperformer. And we know that's absolutely not the case. There have been great people let go from companies for a number of different reasons. But there's no reason to announce to the world that I'm open to work, because there are some people that view it negatively. The second reason, that I also say that you want to keep it, hidden and don't put it out there, is, quite honestly, there are a lot of companies, that just feel that, you know what, when I'm hiring, I've hired hundreds of people in my career, and I know a lot of managers who have hired a lot of people, but I cannot find one single person who ever hired people who were told by their company, please make sure that the person you fill this position with is currently unemployed. It doesn't happen. Being unemployed does not give you an advantage. The flip side is it can be a disadvantage, unfortunately. And so I urge you to not use it. And I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that think, you know what, it is good to let people know you're unemployed. They think that you'll be readily available. That doesn't happen very often. And so my feeling is, and I appreciate you asking the question, is that I would not encourage you to put it on your profile. Here's another question that was emailed in. Given the changing landscape of the job market, what's the best piece of advice that you would have for somebody who's just coming out of college and going to be applying for jobs? Well, this is, going to involve a lot of internal looking. The individual needs to make sure that they craft, well, let's say first, understand the kind of work they want to do. What are the kinds of job titles you want to pursue? What kind of work do you want to be doing? What kind of industries do you want to be working in? Because for somebody starting out in their career, it's always advisable to gravitate towards industries that you feel close to, that you think would be exciting, that are going to offer you the kind of reward that you're looking for. Then you need to start looking at what are your strengths. And I realize that coming right out of school, well, you don't have much of any experience, and some great internships can be a very big differentiator between you and other college grads, because those internships really represent the fact that a company identified you as somebody that they wanted, and you got some hands-on experience, which is great. It all provides upside. Start to think about what your strengths are, okay? And how do you translate that into value to the kinds of positions or roles that you want to pursue? Of course, you got to make sure that your resume is talking very clearly about value, about hard skills. The soft skills are far less important. The hard skills, are the ones that help you sell yourself. And then create a target company list. This will create the focus around your search that you need. We can't sell everybody to any company that's out there in any industry. But if you can identify the target industries and list out all the companies that are of interest to you, whether they live in the area where you are or they're remotely located, it's quite possible that your first job might actually be a remote job. Which is just fine, but you want to make sure that you're in with the right company. So if you do the legwork up front, to identify your value, how you connect it to jobs, and then how you communicate on paper, in your resume, in your LinkedIn profile, and with email cover letters, your chances of opening up doors and conversations are going to be much greater. Here's a question that was just sent in. It has to do with ghosting. This is a great topic. Ghosting. Had an interview on November 4th with the hiring authority and the talent acquisition team. I got no response from anybody after sending out a thank you note and 2 follow-up notes. Any suggestions? Ghosting is alive and well, and it's really unfortunate. And I can say the same thing for age discrimination, particularly for those of you that are over the age of 50. But when it comes to ghosting, there are some things that you can do to help ensure that before you even get an interview, you might diminish the chances of getting ghosted. And this is where email cover letters can be huge, but also the network. If you have somebody in your network who can become an internal advocate for you, the chances of you getting ghosted will go down dramatically, because when people get ghosted, it can be embarrassing for the hiring company, particularly if there's somebody inside that company that made a referral of you into the firm. So always look for ways to network into the company, potentially get an advocate on the inside working on your behalf, and the chances of you being ghosted after what might be multiple interviews will be diminished significantly, because the last thing a company wants to do is to treat a friend or an advocate of somebody who's an employee of the company wrong, and then have to answer to that individual. So follow-up notes are absolutely important. One way to stay engaged with folks, even when you haven't heard anything back, is to just do a little bit of research on their industry. See if you can come across some interesting articles or perspectives that you might see on LinkedIn or in various journals. And feel free to send that along with your perspective to the various people inside the firm that you think would be of interest to the perspective that you're sharing. The fact is that there are multiple people that weigh in on a hiring decision. It's not one single person's, responsibility. And you should be, when you're applying to companies, what you don't want to do is just apply online and hope for the best. Okay, that doesn't get you the results you want. The fact is that if you are networking in there and you are finding ways to at least message your background to 4, 5, 6 different people inside the firm, your chances of getting the visibility and starting to build up some interest on behalf of your background is going to be significantly greater than if you just apply online or just send your resume over to talent acquisition. Let's face it, the people that have the power, that have the influence and own the budget is not HR or talent acquisition. It's the hiring manager, that person's peers and their superiors. And these are the people that you've got to get, working on your behalf inside. Also, just as a reference, I do have a 90-minute webinar recording on how to beat ghosting during your job search. It might be something that you want to check out as well. The same is true of the 90-minute session on age discrimination. Let's see if there's another question that's come in here. Here's a follow-on question. Do you ask for next steps at the end of your interview about following up? Always set up your next appointment. Yeah. So this is a great reminder to all of you. Whenever you have an interview, let's just say it's a phone screen, which is the initial interview. The questions that you want to ask at the end of that interview are important. One is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to address with regard to my background? Because you want to know whether or not they are checking enough boxes to move you on to the next stage in the process, which is likely to be an interview with the hiring manager. But ask that question. The second is, is there any reason why you wouldn't move me on to the next stage in the process? Nothing wrong with asking that question. They might raise something that you can address right there on the spot. And the third question you absolutely have to ask is, can you tell me a little bit about the next steps in the hiring process and the timeline associated with that? Because this is where you might start to think that if you don't ask that question and 2 weeks go by and you hear nothing, you might really, be quick to conclude I'm being ghosted or I've been eliminated. And it may not be the case at all. The fact is the hiring process is badly broken in a lot of companies, and it's just taking entirely too long. And so ask that question so that at least, you'll have some information on what your expectation should be, and, what kind of timeline you might be looking at. Here's another question that was emailed in. Should I consider using Grammarly.com or any other AI tools to write my resume and cover letters? The simple answer to that is no. Grammarly.com, for example, is great for identifying misspelled words and typographical errors. And they may very well have an AI agent within the platform. But my advice to all of you is AI is a great tool. And it's for job seekers. I think its greatest value is for research, for ideas, to give you information on an industry that you may not be quite familiar with. You can ask these questions, and ChatGPT is not the only one out there. I've been using a research tool called Perplexity. And in my mind, it's far superior to ChatGPT, Perplexity. For those of you that might be subscribers to Xfinity, if you're a Diamond subscriber, you actually get that service for free for 12 months. But I think the AI tools are great for research, for understanding some of the things that you might not be sure about in a job or a job responsibility or in an industry. But I would not have them become your tool of choice to write your resume or your LinkedIn profile or your emails, because it will come across somewhat mechanized. There are some companies that have tools that can recognize when an AI tool is being used. And you may start to sound like everybody else who is unfortunately maybe using some of these tools. So appreciate the question. That's, again, my perspective on this. And I'm sure there are plenty of other people out there that have, maybe a differing perspective. But let me go back here to some of the emails, questions that were sent in. After I have an interview, should I be sending thank you emails to each person that I interview with? Absolutely. Absolutely. And whether it's a phone screen with one person or you've gone through a round with 3 or 4 people, send them an email. And here's the reason why. And it's not just to say thank you. It's to reinforce some of the things in your background that are pertinent to the most important requirements of the job. And what I encourage everybody to do, particularly those that I coach, is that you should select the 3 most important requirements of the job and put 3 bullet points that demonstrate very quickly things you've done in your past that tie to those 3 important requirements of the job, because that email is going to get passed around. It may get passed around to some people that you haven't yet interviewed with, and it will become the ammunition that people inside the company need in order to be able to say, you know what, she's the one who had done this, this, and this, because that email is going to serve as a reminder for them. So it's nothing, it's not just a thank you. Thank you for your time. No, it's also an opportunity to reinforce some of the key selling points behind your background. Here's a question that came in. Is it now a practice during a first round interview with HR that they tell you all about the position? Then note that the position is actually not open. No. Let's see what else is here. An HR rep noted that they are interviewing proactively when the role opens. Okay, that is somewhat unusual. Quite honestly, companies don't want to spend a lot of time interviewing candidates and taking up the time of the interviewer to interview people when there's not yet a job available. My guess is they're going through a culling process to determine, maybe get a cursory view of the marketplace, whether or not there are qualified candidates out there and what they might look like if and when they decide to post the position. But what you've described here is pretty unusual. It's not to say that it's wrong. It's probably the company deciding they want to get ahead of this and determine whether or not there are some potential viable candidates, or what might these individuals be bringing to the table in terms of background. Here's another question that was chatted in. What's the best approach when you are experienced and old and looking for a job and are ready to take a lower position? Okay, so this plays potentially to age discrimination. Again, I've got a 90-minute recording on this. The fact is that there are many people who are well into their 50s or 60s who are willing to take a lesser position. Some of you might ask, well, why is that? Well, for some people, the fact is that, their kids may be out of college. They may have just gotten a $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 pay increase because they aren't paying tuition and room and board any longer. And they're willing to take less than what they were making maybe 5 or 10 years ago. I think that's a conversation once you have the door open to let them know that you have flexibility when it comes to compensation, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you're willing to take that step back. There are also plenty of people who have been managing large organizations and they've reached a point in their career that they go, you know what, I don't want this headache anymore. And there's nothing wrong with stepping back and becoming a single contributor. You become a very valuable employee to these companies. And the fact is the experience that you've acquired along the way doesn't leave you as you get older. It just makes you a more qualified individual. And so you need to turn that experience into one of your greatest assets. And so don't balk away, or walk away, from opportunities because you think you're overqualified, or because it was something that you may have done early in your career, but you'd really like to be doing it again. You just need to have the right, track talk on this to be able to explain to folks why this is a move that you're willing to make, and then of course you can become a mentor to other people while not having to carry the salary associated with somebody who might be more experienced. Here's another question that was emailed in. What do you think are the most important aspects of a job search for most job seekers? Well, a couple quick things, and I mentioned a few of these earlier. One is defining your value proposition. Your resume and your LinkedIn profile, of course, but you've got to build out this target company list because it's going to create focus around your search. Don't worry that you have a lot of target companies that aren't currently advertising positions. That should never stop you from going after them. The fact is that It's real easy to create a target company list of the Fortune 1000 firms. But if you're over the age of 45 or 50, a lot of these firms are looking for individuals who in some cases might be 10 or 20 years younger than you. Doesn't mean that they have the same experience as you. But this is why I'm such a big advocate of going after the middle market companies. These could be firms that anywhere from 50 million to a billion or more in annual revenue. And many of them are not household names, but they're doing extremely well. And the fact is that they could be looking for somebody who's got the experience that they historically have not been able to attract. That could be you. And so, I'm a big advocate of, building out a target company. And my feeling is that you should never have fewer than at least 30 companies. And the fact is that it'll be easy for you to get 130 if you're willing to consider, remote locations. For the right candidates, a lot of companies are going to be far more flexible than they used to be historically. One of the greatest things that came out of COVID-19, and there aren't many, is the fact that a lot of companies came to the realization that they could actually empower their people to work remote and be highly productive. And it's one of the reasons why there are still so many companies that are entirely remote and those that have gone hybrid, because they realize people are getting a lot more work done. They don't have to spend that 1 hour commuting and the costs associated with it. And they're able to actually, in many cases, work longer hours working from home. So let's see any other questions that have come in here on the chat. I said a little discussion here about the banner. Let me just add another thing. I talked about that open to work on your LinkedIn profile. The other thing, aside from not using that, is your banner. The big picture space that you've got on your LinkedIn profile. This is hugely important, and it needs to convey something about your value. Okay, you can tailor these to any messaging you want. I see a lot of banners that have a company sky, have a skyline of a major city, but with no words on top of it. You need to have some verbiage on there that helps people very quickly understand what your background's all about. And then when it comes to your headline, LinkedIn allows you 220 characters. There's a lot of keywords that you can fit in there. Just remember, one of the ways you get found is through search engine optimization. And that's the keyword matching process, where folks are going into the back end of LinkedIn and they're plugging in the key skills, and the people that are going to get the highest score, the ones that are going to get the phone screens, are the ones that have the most keyword matches. So you've got to play the keyword game when it comes to your LinkedIn profile, so that you get found, get considered, get interviews. And this is a piece of of the coaching that I spend a lot of time with people on, because there are so many creative things you can do, not just with the banner and the headline, but throughout your profile to raise your visibility. Here's a question that was emailed in. I hate networking. What can I do to get better at it? Join the group. There's a lot of folks that absolutely hate networking. It doesn't come natural to most people. It's something that comes a lot easier to people that have grown up in a sales environment. But the fact is that networking is a huge component of any successful job search. So a couple things that I would suggest. If you are going to in-person networking events, arrive early. Arrive early. Get there early. There's nothing more intimidating than coming to an in-person networking event, and there's already a sea of people there that are in groups of 2 and 3 and 4, and you feel like a complete stranger, and you're worried about breaking into some of these conversations. The greatest fix is to get there early. Engage the person who's running the event, and as people come in, you're going to get first crack at them. So I think that's an easy fix. The second is practice on Zoom. Record yourself. Get another job seeker or somebody who you pretend that you're networking with them. See how it goes. Record it. Play it back. See how you come across. Take time on your elevator pitch, because in any networking situation, one of the questions you invariably are going to get asked is, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Too many people cannot answer that question in a very exciting way. And it's got to be exciting if you want to retain the attention of the person you're talking to. So you've got to think through your value and create a message map. This is really important. What is your value sitting at the top? And what are the various tentacles that come off of it that speak to experiences that you've had that tie back to it? Much like an organizational chart. There's different aspects of what you do, and you got to have the story. How do you characterize yourself in 45 or 60 seconds? That's where the elevator pitch is so important. And the last suggestion I want to make to you is on LinkedIn. There's a fantastic feature on LinkedIn where you can go to filtered searches and go to a category called connections of. You can do this with anybody that is a first degree connection of yours. And I tell you, it's fantastic, particularly with people who have a lot of LinkedIn connections. And I have so many people that go into networking meetings and they have some conversations, and the person that they're networking with says, "Hey, go ahead and take a look at my LinkedIn profile. And if you see anybody in there that's of interest to you, feel free to let me know, and I'd be happy to make an introduction if I know them." Okay. Well, guess what? That person's got 8,000 LinkedIn connections. You can't go looking through 8,000. But you can filter on all of theirs as long as you have become a first degree connection of theirs. You can go in and do a filtered search on every one of their connections, and you can filter by job title. You can filter by geographic location. You can filter by industry, by company name, any number of things, so that you can then go into their connections of, find 5, 6, 7 people that they are connected to that you're not. And you can then go back to them, take screenshots of those individuals and say, "Hey, I found 6 people that you're connected to that I would love to get an introduction to because they're working inside a company that's of interest to me. Maybe they even have a job," right? Do you know any of these people well enough to make a potential introduction? I did this time and time again when I was in job searches. I never walked away empty-handed. I always got introductions from some of the people that they were connected to. And this is such a valuable tool, connections of. Let's go back onto the chat, see if there's anything else that was sent in here. It looks like somebody mentioned Perplexity. It's a great tool. I think you'll be very impressed with it. Let's see here. Any other questions? Here's a question. How do I search for a job if my location may change soon? Then my suggestion to you have a choice here. You could change your location now. So if you're physically located in Boston, but you're going to be moving to LA, you have a decision to make. You could change your profile so it says you live in Los Angeles, and you'll start to attract more opportunities from recruiters, from headhunters, and from potential companies. But you should proactively decide, you know what? I'm going to start looking for positions that are in the LA area. Okay, and do filtered searches, whether it's on LinkedIn and it's on Indeed or any of these other sites. You can do filtered searches by geographic location. But also keep in mind, just because you're moving location, it's quite possible that you might find a great job that's not located in your current city, and it's not located in the city where you're moving to. That's why I encourage anybody in a job search to be flexible, to jobs that might, not be located in your hometown. And that's okay. It's quite possible that companies, for the right candidate, might be willing to let the individual work from home or come, to the home office maybe once a month for a couple days. So I think you got a couple choices, a couple ways to go about this. Here's a question. What is the best tool to ensure that the resume gets through the applicant tracking system? Is JobScan a good site, or are there any others? JobScan's a good site, and it's jobscan.co. An even better site, quite honestly, is the company I partner with, Microtrain. It's microtraine.net. These are sites that will take they can take your resume and a job description, and the software will then tell you what percentage of the job description and the keywords do appear in your resume. Okay, you can do it for cover letters as well. Don't get hung up on trying to get your score to 70, for example, on JobScan. If you want to just take, a quick benchmark and see, how close are you getting to 70 on JobScan, great. Okay. And if you're way off, great. Then the message to you is you need to insert some more keywords into your LinkedIn profile and into your resume. But those are, two good sites that I put something out on LinkedIn the other day with regard to this very topic. So if you would just go on to LinkedIn, in the search bar, put in hashtag Marty Gilbert, and you'll see a listing of a lot of my posts that have gone out. Here's another question that was sent in. What's the best way to find executive recruiters on LinkedIn and connect with them? So you can do a search by title. Quite honestly, you can do filtered searches on LinkedIn by companies, by title, by geographic location, and so you could put into the title of people, by city if you want. You could put executive search or headhunter or executive recruiter. Just know that there's two very different kinds of executive search firms. There are contingent search firms that are looking to, in some cases, find a profile or a resume and try to shop it to a company that they don't have a contract with. The retained search firms are the much better firms. They're far more reputable. It's companies like Korn Ferry, Russell Reynolds, Spencer Stewart, Heidrick and Struggles, Boyden, Slayton. There's about 25 great ones. And they have been given the exclusive for that search that they're conducting. So I urge you to, if you're going to use an outside recruiter, just know none of these recruiters are working for you. They're all working for the company that's going to make the hire, because that's who's going to pay them. And recruiters, external recruiters, represent less than 1% of all the jobs that are out there. And the good ones are only looking to fill positions at the VP and C-suite positions. So if you're one of those people, then the executive search firms, the good retained search firms, are one potential play for you, but don't rely entirely on them. Let's see, here's another question. What's the difference between an elevator pitch and a value proposition? Okay, so the value proposition is that section that sits at the top of your resume under your contact information. It's essentially a summary of your background that helps people understand, real quickly, what is this person all about? Okay, the average resume only gets 6 to 10 seconds of read time, but I can assure you the area that gets the most read time is that section up at the top. That should describe your value. The elevator pitch is going to be an extension of that. It's simply you verbalizing when somebody asks you, tell me a bit about your background. What are you all about? It's essentially a verbal interpretation of how you want to describe your background, so that you engage that person well enough to get them to want to hear more. And so, they are very similar to one another, but one is the spoken word, the other, in most cases, is going to be the written version of what your background's all about. Here's another question that came in. What to do when you're not even getting interviews? I think what you have to do is you've got to ask yourself, why is this happening? Okay, why am I not getting more interviews? And the fact is that you can. It could be a number of different reasons. Okay, one might be that maybe your resume is not getting through an ATS properly, and there's all kinds of things that can prevent your resume from getting read. Okay, it could be italics, it could be hyperlinks, it could be color, it could be graphs. Again, I got a separate recording on that very topic. But if you're not getting interviews at all, I think you have to evaluate, well, I guess one question I would ask you, are you sending email cover letters, and are you sending them to multiple people inside the firm? As I said, it's not sufficient to just send it to one person inside the company. You can't rely on just HR or talent acquisition to determine that you're one of the people we want to interview. You got to send it out to several people, that are in the area where you want to be, but also those folks that are tangential to it. Because all you need to do is get one of these people to take note of your email and your attached resume, and they forward it over to the right person, and now you're getting the visibility you want. So I know that we've went quite long here. Here's somebody had chatted in an AI tool that they found helpful. It's app.interviews.chat/en. So let me just cover a couple quick things before we part company here. Again, I appreciate you all taking the time to spend this afternoon with us. Quick reminder about the WIOA training programs. These are training that you can get for free. I've had hundreds of members in NSENG get free training that would normally have cost anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000. Microtrain will help you apply for that grant. And if you don't live in the state of Illinois, there are other companies like this in your state that can help you apply for that grant as well. If you're interested in the possibility of working with a coach, feel free to send me an email at mgilbert@nsenginc.com, and I'd be happy to set up a free exploratory conversation with you. Again, couple quick reminders. If you are not yet a member of NSENG, I urge you to take advantage of the free membership. Join our LinkedIn group as well. Check out all of the webinar and workshop recordings, along with all my podcast and radio and TV interviews, as well as the coaching services. Again, thank you so much for your time spending your day with us. I know that I won't see most of you between now and the holidays, and so I just want to take this opportunity to wish you a nice holiday and start working now on getting yourself well positioned for the new year. Enhance your resume, search engine optimize your LinkedIn profile. Start writing cover letters that can really open up doors that resumes and LinkedIn profiles can't do. I've got a great session on resumes tell, but cover letters sell, and I show you how to write highly tailored cover letters in less than 10 minutes. There's just some great resources that are available to you, and again, you don't have to go through the job search alone. We've got almost 12,000 members in this group that are happy to help you. It's just up to you to ask for that help. So please take advantage of the resources that are available to you in NSENG, and all the best to you in your job search. Thanks so much for spending a part of your day with us. Take care.